Welcome to our latest installment of Lunch and Learn. My name is John Raphael, and I'm with the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, and I'm with my colleague and friend Dan Hermrich. And additionally, I use my colleague and friend, friendship. We're going to talk today about one of I think, a very important competency that are in the set of NADSP direct support professional competencies, and it's building and maintaining friendships and relationships, and the role that direct support professionals have doing that in the lives of the people that they work with. So that's what today's Lunch and Learn is about. It's near and dear, I think most of our hearts, is because we know all of us, I think, want to have friends and relationships and have somebody in our lives or people in our lives that we can count on and look to. So that's very important. But I think it's easier said than done, and that's what we're going to talk about over the course of this next few minutes, this lunchtime. Um, there, my colleague and my friend there on the left. That's Dan Hermrich, and I'm the
Hello,
guy.
everyone.
Hey, Dan. Um, any initial comments on what we're about to do?
No, as you said, I think it's an important topic, and we're gonna dive right into it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So, our for those of you that have not been with us before, these Lunch and Learn episodes are all part of uh, an ongoing development a resource package that we have for anybody that's interested in developing and promoting the work of direct support professionals. That's our mission and vision, or vision and mission, that's up there on the screen. If you can see it, I'm not going to necessarily read it, but we're pretty much about one thing, which is to ensure that people who are receiving support from direct support professionals, they get the best quality of support through what we do at the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, which is promoting the knowledge, the skills, and the values of and for direct support professionals in the United States and throughout North America, really. But that's us. If you want to know more about us, please check out our website. We're always kind of adding stuff to what we have to offer as resources for anybody interested. So nadsp.org. Please join us there. Um, this is called a Venn diagram. It is essentially our symbol. It's what we stand for in a visual form, and knowledge, skills, and values are all they interplay together. And when a direct support professional has the knowledge of what they're doing, backed with skills to I guess demonstrate that knowledge, and if they have an ethical, values-based way in which they are performing those skills, then we get to the middle of that Venn diagram, which is all about what we're about, which is offering quality support by highly qualified and highly competent direct support professionals. And all we do is centered around and based on the foundation of that Venn diagram. Uh, Simply put, this is if we had a slogan or any kind of catchphrase, this is ours. It's on pretty much all of our correspondence, and it's a quote from our ideological, our founder, really, of this organization, the National Alliance, John F. Kennedy Jr. And he wrote once this quote, and we use it constantly. And quality is defined at the point of interaction between the staff member and the individual with a disability. And today, what we're going to talk about is it's really focused on how do we, in supporting people with disabilities, how do we help them have more interactions beyond staff members? And that can be tricky, and that's what we're going to focus on. And I think a lot of us struggle with how to do that in the best way possible. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And there are um, our 15 competency areas. As you can see, the one that's kind of italicized and bolded is the one we're going to be diving into today: building and maintaining friendships and relationships. And I think one of the more I would say more complex the uh, of the competencies in order to do it. So let's get right to it. So Dan, this is kind of, I think, was your brainchild. I'll give it over to you, and you want to discuss this a little bit.
Well, yeah, people tuning in may recognize this pyramid or similar pyramids they may have seen in other training programs. This is a visual representation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Abraham Maslow was a psychologist who was, studying really factory workers and how he could help. Excuse me.
You okay there? I think
Yeah,
Dan is
sorry
getting
about that.
some. That's okay. Dan, he's getting his physiological needs met, and
Yes,
by
taking a drink
having.
of water.
Sorry
Sorry
about
about that, everybody. But yeah, so it starts at the bottom with the basics. You build this pyramid from the foundation up. So psychological needs like water are certainly very, very important. When human beings don't have those things, they tend to focus on getting them, as I just did. Safety needs. People need to be safe. They need to feel safe. And then after that, we get into relationships. And relationships really is a need. It's not something that's optional. It's not something that's just, nice to have. It's something we as human beings need. We're social creatures. We're sort of hardwired
Mhm.
to form relationships. And, thousands of years ago, one human being alone on their own probably had a much lower chance of survival than a
Mm.
human being that was part of a community, that was part of a group, that had those connections and those relationships.
Yeah.
So, to this day, I think we all rely on our relationships to help keep us safe.
Mhm.
Let's say your car breaks down. Certainly, there's professionals you could call on to help you with that. But many of us might know somebody, might have a friend who's got some mechanical knowledge that could help us jumpstart a car. So we don't need to rely on that professional service that might be very costly. I, used to be a math teacher, and I've got all sorts of friends who know that about me. And it's not uncommon for me to get a phone call or to get a text message saying, "Can you help with this math problem?" It's either, I'm taking this college math class and I need some help, or my kid brought home this math problem and I'm not sure what's going on here. We do this. We reach out to our friends in times of need, and this is something we want to help the people we support to develop that network, to develop those connections,
Mhm.
so to help them feel safe and secure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, Dan. I look at this and I'm thinking about our history in terms of working with people and working with people with intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities, psychiatric disabilities, um, when we had institutions, and
Mhm.
even even to a degree, even now, we're very good at the bottom there.
Yeah,
Well, relatively good.
yeah,
We're able to, okay, we can give three hots and a cot, and and make sure people are safe. It's funny when I think the state comes in, any state that you're doing any kind of supports in. Um, Often those state surveying processes are all about, okay, are things safe, are things sound, are people getting fed, are they being cared for medically, and that's all good, you need that.
yeah.
um,
I don't think anyone questions how important that stuff is.
sure. But I think our push and the push for the direct support professionals listening to this and is, well, when you that's the competency statement at the very top, right? Just for a competent direct support professional will support the participant, the person you're supporting, in the development of friendships and other relationships. Um, that sounds simple. Um, that's not so simple. And I think what we have devised, or what these competencies do, is give you a little bit of how to, let's break that down, and how do you as a direct support professional do that. So I guess let's get to the skill statements, right?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you want to talk about, we have on each of the, there's a total of 10 skill statements for this particular competency. So it's pretty extensive,
Yes.
which is great. Um, but we've divided the skill statements into three different screens here. But each of the screens is going to feature a badge, one of our electronic badges that you can earn. And Dan, I don't know if you want to talk about these different badges. This first one here,
Sure.
individual activities.
So the individual activities badge, this is one of the badges in our eBadge Academy. And the idea here is that DSPs are often called upon to take people, to various events in as part of a group, right? Getting into a van and going out to experience some aspect of their community.
Very
And
often.
and that's all well and good, but when you're out in the community, one of the things you want to do is to help people form relationships, and it's really difficult, I think, for members of the community to form a relationship with a group of people. Um, that if you're out there one-on-one with someone, it's much easier to make those connections. So that's the idea behind the individual activities badge: is give us examples of times you've arranged for individual activities based on a person's desires, their interests,
Hmm.
and how you pulled that off. And if you can tell us about that and answer some questions about it, you're eligible for that badge, and that's a one step toward a certification.
Cool. That's a good one. Um, and I take a look at these three competencies there, the skill statements rather. This is part and parcel to, um, I think, being involved in helping somebody with individualized activities, right? So the competent direct support professional assists somebody as needed in planning for community activities and events, making reservations at a restaurant, making sure that there's enough people to support the person, right? Money, it costs money to go to the movies or go to the dinner or whatever. All of it, materials, accessibility. It's interesting, there's still, even though we have curb cuts in sidewalks, but sometimes you'll be out there. I've been out there many times when accessibility isn't necessarily the best.
Yeah.
And you've got to, you're going to help people, even when you're out and about and you come into a barrier. You've got to know how to navigate certain things, to help somebody have a good time in whatever they're doing out there in their pastime. Um, The second one, that's interesting. The second one, right? The competent direct support professional assists the individual as needed in arranging transportation for community events. And this, depending, so if you're working at like a large provider, oftentimes you got a fleet of vehicles or agency vehicles, and that's wonderful. But a lot of direct support professionals, whether they're in an urban environment, or working on a more individualized basis, maybe a contractual basis, like they're an independent contractor. There's more and more of those kind of direct support professionals out there.
Right.
You might need to understand the use of Lyft and Uber and the local accessible transportation arrangements in your municipality, in your neighborhood. Um,
And
Even
John, there's many direct support professionals out there that are using their personal vehicles.
yep,
Oh,
yep,
you want to go to the movies? Okay, jump in, let's go.
yep, yep. And that's good. Just make sure that when you're doing that, you're abiding by your
Right.
organization's policies, because organizations have different policies about
Yes.
that. And but that that can be a real challenge, especially if somebody uses adaptive equipment, uses a wheelchair, has um, whatever, maybe physical constraints when it comes to how long they sit, and so on.
Yeah.
But so you got to know your stuff. Um, and I think the third the third skill statement, write things down that you do. As much as it can take the fun out of it. The reality is we have to document when we're doing good stuff. Um, because that is, well, fortunately, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, that's the way in which we get reimbursed. So if we're supporting a person or people, oftentimes how an organization gets reimbursed or paid, um, is partly about, okay, what are you doing with this person? How are you helping them uh, get out there and be part of their neighborhood or their community? So you do have to document things, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. That's a whole competency in itself. Um, so I think there we go. That's a good foundation for the first. The first three are uh, pretty, I think, straight ahead. Let's dive a little deeper. And there's another badge. Maybe Dan, you want to talk about
Okay.
this badge, planning activities. That's that badge there.
Planning activities is exactly what it sounds like. It's partnering with a person you support to plan some kind of activity. And, it could be as simple as, going out for dinner. It could be as complex as, a 7-day tropical vacation. But you don't do that as the professional. You don't do that for people. You do that with people.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for in the planning activities badge.
Now that's a good one. And I like that skyline. That's a very interesting skyline in that badge.
I believe that is Louisville, Kentucky, John. I
I
believe
think it,
that was the site of our first NADSP conference,
yeah,
immortalized in that badge.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And for all of our friends in Kentucky, hey, you can be proud to earn that badge. You can say, hey, that's Louisville, Kentucky. And I think I said it right, Louisville. Um, so let's look at these three skill statements. I like these. So the competent direct support professional encourages and assists the people that they're supporting as needed in facilitating friendships and peer interactions. That is tricky.
Yes.
Um, I think a lot of people can be shy. I mean, disability or not.
Right.
Um, I think it's not necessarily natural for everybody to go out there and find people to meet and strike up friendships and relationships. And we have to be considerate of the personalities of the people that we're working with. And some people aren't naturally gregarious. Some people are going to be reserved. Some people we support are going to be out there and about there, and they will make friends the minute they get on the bus. So I think what that skill statement's about is that we do have to help people, push them a little bit to see that maybe meeting somebody in church or synagogue or mosque, it might be a little uncomfortable, but maybe we might have to make that introduction so that there can be at the very least that person that we're supporting has an opportunity to at least try the relationship. And oftentimes, it goes well, but it can go the other way too, right, Dan? I mean,
Right.
we want to also be careful with introducing people and having people meet other people in the community. Not that it's that people are necessarily dangerous, and that can be the case, but you want to do this in a way that's as natural as possible. That you're not forcing relationships on somebody because, oh, people have to have relate. We're not saying that. It's just that I think sometimes, and we have research that backs this, oftentimes people with disabilities, especially, tend to be pretty lonely and tend to be shy, um, and can be discriminated against, can be bullied. We get that, but that's where the encouraging and assisting people as needed when it comes to these interactions, that's where that comes in. So,
Yeah. So I mean, I think, John, we continue to have an awareness of opportunities for that, and we present those opportunities to the people that we support, and we follow their lead. We get their feedback about what they're comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with, and we follow their lead. But we don't drop the topic, right? We keep bringing up these opportunities. There's a concert downtown tonight. Would you be interested in going? There's an event at your church. Would you be interested in going?
Mhm.
So we keep that conversation going, and we try to discover, because even if you're not a social person that seeks out that sort of thing, there might be an opportunity or an event that you would love to participate in.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Um, which I think this next skill step, the second one there that's listed, the competent direct support professional encourages and assists, once again, those two words, the person they're supporting as needed in, here we go, communication with family members or with parents. And this is kind of specific to those familial family relationships, which can be really powerful and important and good, but they can also be estranged. And those relationships can be very complicated. Maybe you're supporting somebody whose family or brother or sister lives far away, and maybe that a phone call or internet Skyping or whatever, that's going to be kind of your role to help facilitate that. And it's interesting, letters. Um, you don't think that that's a common modality to communicate these days, but it's funny. I find a lot of people kind of like that. They're going back to it. It's almost like this retro thing to write a letter. I was talking to somebody that's going to start a pen pal program as part of their work sample that they're going to do for one of our portfolio projects. So letters, I suppose, is kind of old school.
And John, one subset of letters within that letters category might be something like birthday cards.
Yeah, yeah,
Are there people in your life that you would like to send a birthday card to?
yeah.
And I, as a direct support professional, am here to help you with that, to remind you, a few weeks before that date's coming up on the calendar, to go out and help you select a card.
Yep.
That's part of the supports that we provide. And if it's not a birthday card, a lot of that happens on Facebook these days. So if the
Mhm.
person you're supporting is an active Facebook user, they might appreciate a reminder to, post a happy birthday message on a
Yeah,
family member's page.
exactly. Just one more thing on this one, and then we'll move on. But I've seen it, and I'm guilty of it, I suppose myself. When you do have a family that is really engaged and part of a person's life, but they still rely on the direct support professional for obviously all the different things that they help that person that they're supporting with. It's about the relationship that that person has with their family, not your relationship with the family. Yes, you have a nice relationship with the family, and that's great. And keep doing that really good and be respectful and be ethical. But the purpose of, I think, our role as direct support professionals is not to, become friends with the families of the people we're supporting. Um, it's about helping that person we support have the best possible engagement with their family or their brother or sister or what have you. So just want to just put that out there. And the last one, the competent direct support professional implements individual supports regarding community activities. And I think that's just kind of an extension of what we've already talked about this last few minutes. You may have to load a Dynavox communication device with some different types of um, communication words, or words rather, for communication. If you're going to be going to maybe a ball game, and maybe that person does not have programmed in how to hot dog or beer or peanuts or whatever. I think you see where I'm going. I think you need to be very individualized in the way in which you're going to support somebody out there and about there. You know, so that when we say individual supports, that's exactly what we're talking about. We talk about being person-centered. This is the epitome of it, making sure that a person is prepared to go out and eat at that restaurant or do that ball game or whatever.
And I think the other thing going on here is that, we know that staffing can be a struggle for many, many organizations.
Sure.
And often there's a real um, benefit to the staffing when multiple people are participating in the same activity. You
Yep.
might be able to have one staff person support 3 or 4 people out in the community as opposed to just one person. But if I'm that person who wants to go to that ball game and order that hot dog, and my roommates don't feel like doing that,
Hmm.
hopefully you find a way to make that happen, and don't just say, well, it's the weekend. We only have one staff on duty. Hopefully you're advocating with the person you're supporting to make sure those opportunities can happen.
Yep. Yep. And I think, yeah, you're right on. You're right on. And if you do that respectfully, and you might have to put a little pressure on your supervisor. And again, do it respectfully. But I think at the very least, what you're doing there is you're showing that you are promoting as individualized and as a person-centered approach as you can possibly do as a direct support professional. And it might not be the case, but it doesn't hurt to push uh, a little bit more sometimes. So the last set of skills, and I like this. This badge is one of my favorites. And Dana, explain this badge.
Yeah, I mean, it really is everything we've been talking about. It's helping people to develop and maintain friendships. So it might be about helping someone meet someone who becomes a friend, or it might just be about helping them to keep that relationship going. Our relationships all need a certain amount of maintenance. If we have a friend, we need to, have have things that we do with that friend. We need to have communication with that friend in order to keep the relationship going. And oftentimes people may need the support of a direct support professional to do that.
Hmm. And it's interesting. One of our most popular webinars that we've ever done, and we have a kind of a repeat performance this September at our annual conference, is the topic of direct support professionals. Can they be friends with the people they support? Friends or friendly, right? And Rachel Jacob, one of our consultants, and a person that you can watch her webinar or listen to her webinar, which is on our archives if you are a member. And certainly, if you're going to be coming to the conference in September, she's going to probably sell out her session because it is our is it the role of the direct support professional to become a friend? And that we're not going to answer that here. I think that's not we're not going to say yay or nay. There are very strong feelings and opinions about that from different people. Um, but I think in the spirit of this competency, that definitely isn't what this is about. Our role as a direct support professional, when we're abiding by this competency, is helping people develop those friendships beyond the paid relationship.
Right. Yeah, I think, if you come down on that side of the question that you can be a friend, I think we still need to acknowledge that friendship is not sufficient, that people need other relationships, other friendships in their life. It can't just be those paid professionals.
Exactly. Exactly. And, again, that's a whole topic into itself, which we won't, but that's about as much as we're going to say. Um, the first one there, the competent direct support professional provides incentive or motivation for, and that's an old school word there.
Yeah.
We apologize for that, for consumer involvement in community outings, but that is the words that are used in our validated competencies, and we can't change them. We'll change them maybe one day in the future. But anyway, point of that is we've talked about it already. Sometimes you do have to. I think you said it before. Keep the story going. Keep it on the plate. Keep it on and play to maybe somebody doesn't want to go to that concert this Friday night, but maybe encourage them the next Friday night concert series if they want to try it. Don't give up. Um, and because maybe somebody has been bullied in a public way, and maybe they're afraid to go out and about, or are afraid to try a new food at the new restaurant that you're suggesting, and the list goes on. But I think that's where incentive and motivation, you've got to use your ethics as well. You shouldn't coerce anybody. Um, you shouldn't push anybody. And I think you said it before, Dan, meet people where they're at, but sometimes that might mean to maybe blaze a trail for them or give them some encouragement if they're feeling a little shy or a little skeptical about something.
Yeah, and I mean, it takes creativity, right? So with your example of the concert, it probably matters what kind of music it is.
Yeah,
The person you support may not be against the idea of going to a concert, but this may not be the concert for them.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
they may not be against, going out to lunch, but again, yeah, that restaurant, that cuisine, might be a little difficult for them. So we look at the options, we present options, and we listen to the feedback we're getting from the people that we support.
Yeah. And they ultimately make their informed choice, with our assistance. Um, so the second one here, the competent direct support professional assists the individual as needed in getting to know and interacting with his or her neighbors. Um, this is good. This is good. This is tough. Um,
And it's
it doesn't
another example where comfort level can vary quite a bit.
exactly.
And that's true of anyone. People have different levels of connection to their neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. Dan, I don't know if you know all your neighbors. I mean, I live in the mountains, so my neighbors are essentially deer, bear, and this guy about a mile down the road. People that live in an urban environment, they might live in an apartment building with,
Right.
10
I'm
families.
on a friendly wave system with my neighbors.
There you go, friendly wave. Maybe you're not having, a coffee every morning with your neighbor, or maybe you are. I mean, that's really up to you, right? And that's where you're going to be doing that encouragement, that assistance. You're going to assist, right? And as needed, but that's also, you've got to really see where the people you're supporting, how they want to engage with their neighbors. And there might be some neighbors you don't want to engage with, to be
Yep.
honest with you. And that, you might need to help with that,
Right.
deciphering I mean, who might be a shady character in the neighborhood,
But
and who might,
it's another example of a relationship that can be a really important resource. I mean, if you are in an apartment building
yeah,
and you lock yourself out accidentally, um, it might be really good to have an existing relationship with your neighbor.
exactly, man. Yeah, and maybe that neighbor has a spare key. You have that kind of your relationship is that close, and you trust that person enough that they have a spare key. Just so when maybe you're out for a couple days, maybe they're going to water your plants or feed your cat. That's neighbors. But I think one of the things we want to be careful with there is that as a direct support professional, you don't want to impose a relationship just because the person, is living. Maybe a person lives in a group home, right? And there's 5 people living in a group home, which is that's it's common. It doesn't mean that you have to take 5 people from that group home and introduce them to everybody on the street so that they have the opportunity to be a neighbor. That would be, I think, bordering on inappropriate. You gotta almost let it evolve somewhat naturally. Host a barbecue, maybe something like that, and invite your neighbors. That might be an avenue, but again, this is where direct support professionals can be really creative, and can get, I think, can be really a benefit to helping people get to know their neighbors. Ah, the third one here: the competent direct support professional encourages and assists the individual as needed in dating. So, um, this can be this can be complicated. Um, you have to be very respectful of the person you're supporting, their sexuality, their interest in having an intimate relationship or a romantic relationship. Um, uh, I think what happens a lot in these situations is family members of the people you support have varying opinions on their loved ones involved in any kind of dating or romantic relationships. Sometimes you'll work for an organization. Maybe you work for a faith-based organization that has very specific policies and if you will, rules for any kind of intimate relationship, up to and including a sexual relationship. But the DSP, be careful with this one. It's not that you're out there encouraging people to, hook up and be in sexual relationships. That's really not the point of this. The point of this is that you may have, as that role as a direct support professional, you may be involved in helping people doing, actually going back, you might help people make reservations for dinner, find out and help them figure out the best movie to go to based on the transportation arrangements that are available to you. I mean, these are all at this point intertwined, I think, with this particular skill statement, and because dating just doesn't happen necessarily naturally. And dating, I think you should also, you don't act alone as a direct support professional. Work with that person you're supporting, with their family members, perhaps to a degree, um, with your team, so that a person's dating experience is one that is positive. And because the reality is sometimes dating can be very, it can be stressful,
Yes.
for anybody, with a disability or not. Rejection, people that maybe or maybe you want to reject somebody and that person wants to keep hanging on. The list goes on. So yeah,
And I think, John, that it is so complicated, that sometimes there can be a tendency for a direct support professional to just say, "Oh, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to go there." And we can't be the barrier to people's dating lives. We need to follow, as we've said countless times before on this webinar, we need to follow the lead of the person that we're supporting.
yep. And I think there's lots of resources. We have a lot of webinars that are devoted to sexuality and relationships and dating and all that other stuff. But when it comes back to this competency, it is part of your role in helping people build and maintain friendships and relationships, because that's part of our human existence. It's a good part. The last one, it's pretty straight ahead. The competent direct support professional will encourages and assists the people they're supporting as needed in communication with social workers and financial workers, meaning helping foster relationships with those other professionals that are in the person's life, because there's often lots of people in the lives of people that are receiving supports, especially if they're living like a residential provider agency. There could be certainly case managers and social workers and psychologists and
Nurses and physical therapists and
yep,
occupational therapists and
yep, yep. And those relationships are just as important as any other relationship. And again, that direct support professional often has that front seat to helping that person navigate those relationships, and that's what that competency is all about. So, Dan, I think we were able to go through these in a pretty concise manner, but I think we could spend 3 or 4 hours on all of these, and that's not our point. That's not what we want to do. We wanted to give you an appetizer and a brief overview, a primer on building and maintaining friendships and relationships, which is,
It's food for thought as part of
yeah,
your lunch and learn.
that's it. I like it. Food for thought. So hopefully everybody had a nice lunch, got something out of this webinar, as I certainly did. I always get something out of doing these webinars with you, Dan. If you want to reach us, there's our contact information. Um, Another plug for the conference, which is starting to come close to us. We're recording this in 2019, so if you're listening to this in 2020, which I hope you are, because this is going to be archived, then forget this what I'm about to say. But if you're listening to this now, September 6th and 7th in Cleveland, Ohio, will be our fifth annual National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals Conference. Please check our website out right there to see more information about that.
And if you are listening in 2020, I'm sure we'll be having a conference in 2020, and I'm sure you can find information on our website about that as well.
Exactly. So with that said, Dan, I wish you a very good day, and everybody else.
Yes. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.